Hello friends, in this video I will be solving CFA Institute's practice MCQs for ethics. Now, before we begin this session, I would like you to read some tips how to crack these MCQs. In front of you, there are 6 tips you need to know. So the first tip is you need to know the standard number and the standard name. So you need to know 1A में क्या है, 2A में क्या है, 1B में क्या है, etc. So you need to know the name and number. Second, of course, you need to know the content. Third, you need to know the violations of all these standards. Fourth, now read option A, B and C even if A looks correct. तीनों ऑप्शन आपको पढ़ना ही है even if you think के first या second correct है. Then confirm whether the question is asking most likely or least likely. Otherwise you will go wrong here. And last, finally you can select A, B or C. So follow this practice for whenever you are solving these questions or whenever you are trying to attempt for MCQs from any book whichever you are referring to. Now after you are thorough with these 6 steps, now we can actually start solving the questions. Now the first question in front of you is, Smith, a research analyst with a brokerage firm, decides to change his recommendation for the common stock of Green Company Inc. from buy to sell. He mails this change in investment advice to all the firm's clients on Wednesday. The day after the mailing, a client calls with a buy order for 500 shares of Green Company. In this circumstance, Smith should dash. First of all, try to understand the question. There is a recommendation that you have to buy this stock. Then he has changed the recommendation from buy to sell. And after that, his client is calling him and asking to buy something. First of all, you should not directly buy it. That is what you have studied. Let's read the options. Option A says accept the order, which is of course wrong. Option B says advise the customer of the change in recommendation before accepting the order. See, now this looks right. You should first tell him that we have changed our recommendation from buy to sell and then see what he has to say. Third option, option C says not accept the order because it is contrary to the firm's recommendation. Now option C is really strict. You cannot just say no to your client. So option B looks right. Check the answer now. The correct answer is B. This question involves standard 3B, fair dealing. Smith disseminated a change in the stock recommendation to his clients but then received a request contrary to that recommendation from a client who probably had not yet received the recommendation. Prior to executing this order, Smith should take additional steps to ensure that the customer has received the change of recommendation. Answer A is incorrect because the client placed the order prior to receiving the recommendation and therefore does not have the benefit of Smith's most recent recommendation. So basically, why is answer A wrong? Because it seems that the client did not receive our recommendation. Now, why is answer C incorrect? C is also incorrect simply because the client request is contrary to the firm's recommendation. It does not mean that a member can override a direct request by the client. After Smith contacts the client to ensure that the client has received the changed recommendation, if the client is still wanting to place a buy order for the shares, then Smith is obligated to comply with the client's objective. So it is clear that answer B is the right one. A and C are wrong. Now, the second question, which statement about a manager's use of client brokerage commission violates the code and standards? Now, you are well aware of client brokerage commissions. So, A, B or C, you have to read the 3 and then decide which one is violating. A client may direct a manager to use that client's brokerage commission to purchase goods and services for their client. Basically, A statement क्या बोलता है that whatever client brokerage commission you have received, your client can ask you to purchase goods and services for him. Okay. B. Client brokerage commissions should be used to benefit the client and should be commensurate with the value of brokerage and research services received. Of course, even this is correct. Now, option C says client brokerage commissions may be directed to pay for the investment manager's operating expenses. Now, if you have read this standard, you know that option C is a violation. Client brokerage commission से आपको जो भी income हुआ है, you have to use it for the benefit of the client. So option A says you have to purchase goods and services for the client. Okay, you can. Option B says that you have to benefit the client. Of course, even that is right. So option C looks wrong here. Let's read the answer. The correct answer is C. This question involves 3A: loyalty, prudence, and care, and the specific topic of soft dollars or soft commissions. I hope you remember the flowchart we had made. Soft dollar or soft commissions. Answer C is not the correct choice because client brokerage commissions may not be directed to pay for the investment manager's operating expenses. Answer B describes how members and candidates should determine how to use the brokerage commissions. That is, if the use is in the best interest of client and is commensurate with the value of services provided. Answer A क्यों गलत है? Answer A prescribes a practice that is commonly referred to directed brokerage. Now, because brokerage is an asset of the client and is used to benefit the client and not the manager, such practice does not violate the duty of loyalty to the client. Members and candidates are obligated in all situations to disclose to clients their practices in the use of client brokerage commissions. So, as you know, ये पूरा का पूरा flowchart हमने पढ़ा था जब भी हम ये standard पढ़ रहे थे. Exactly the same has been replicated. Now, question number 3. Jamieson is a junior research analyst with Harvard & Harvard, a brokerage and investment banking firm. Harvard & Harvard's mergers and acquisition department, M&A बोलते हैं इसको very famously. Mergers and acquisition department has represented a Britland company in all of its acquisition for past 20 years. Two of the Harvard & Harvard's senior officers are directors of various Britland subsidiaries. Now what is happening? You are Harvard & Harvard. Your directors have been involved with your client. That is what it seems like. Jamieson has been asked to write a research report on Britland. What is the best course of action for her to follow? Basically, try to understand Harvard & Harvard. For example, you are Harvard & Harvard. Your officers or managers are directors of Britland's subsidiary. Now, there can be an independence issue here, so you have to select the best course of action out of A, B, and C. Option A says, Jamieson may write the report but must refrain from expressing any opinions because of the special relationship between the two companies. मतलब ऑप्शन ए बोलता है दैट जेमिसन में राइट द रिपोर्ट बट रिफ्रेन फ्रॉम एक्सप्रेसिंग एनी ओपिनियन, मतलब ओपिनियन मत देना, सिर्फ एक रिपोर्ट लिख दो. Now, option B says Jamieson should not write the report because the two Harvard & Harvard officers serve as directors for subsidiaries of Britland. Again, option B is saying that he should not write the report because of that independence issue. Option A says write the report but don't give the opinion. Option B says do not write the report. Option C says Jamieson may write the report if she discloses the special relationships with the company in the report. Now, option A and B are quite harsh. So option C is the right one, that yeah, you may write the report, you may take the assignment, but of course you have to disclose that special relationship. Let's check the answer. The correct answer is C. This question involves Standard 6A, disclosure of conflicts. The question establishes a conflict of interest in which an analyst, Jameson, is asked to write a research report on the company that is a client of analyst's employer. In addition, two directors of the company are senior officers of Jameson's employer. Both facts establish that there are conflicts of interest that must be disclosed by Jameson in her report. Answer B is incorrect because an analyst is not prevented from writing the report simply because of special relationship the analyst employer has with the company, as long as the relationship is disclosed. Basically, disclosure karna hai. It is not that you cannot write the report. Answer A is incorrect because whether or not Jameson expresses any opinions in the report is irrelevant to her duty to disclose a conflict of interest. Not expressing opinions does not relieve the analyst of the responsibility to disclose the special relationships between the two companies. So again, I'm telling, ye disclosure kar do, that is sufficient. It is not that you don't have to write the report or you don't have to pass an opinion. Okay, so disclosure of conflict of interest is a must. Next, now question 4. Which of the following statements clearly conflicts with the recommended procedures for compliance presented in the CFA Institute Standards of Practice Handbook? Option A, firms should disclose to clients the personal investing policies and procedures established for their employees. B, prior approval must be obtained for the personal investment transactions of all the employees. And C, for the confidentiality reasons, personal transactions and holdings should not be reported to employers unless mandated by regulatory organizations. First of all, this is a different type of a question. They have combined many standards here. If you've read the question properly, which of the following statements clearly conflicts with the recommended procedure? So basically you have to select the wrong one. इसमें से दो right है, एक wrong है. So it is very evident that option A is absolutely right. It is not violating. It says that firms must disclose to the clients their personal investing policies, which is right. Option B is again a correct statement. वो violation नहीं है. That prior approval must be obtained for personal transactions of the employees. But option C is a violation because it says for confidentiality reasons, personal transactions and holdings should not be reported to the employers. Now this is wrong. If you are working at any equity research organization, you need to report whatever transactions you have undertaken to your employer. Let's check the answer. The correct answer is C. This question asks about compliance procedures relating to personal investments of members and candidates. The statement in answer C clearly conflicts with the recommended procedures in the Standards of Practice Handbook. Employers should compare personal transactions of the employees with those of the clients on a regular basis, regardless of the existence of any requirement by any regulatory organization. Such comparisons ensure that employees' personal traits do not conflict with their duties to their clients, and the comparisons can be conducted in a confidential manner. The statement in answer A does not conflict with the procedures in the handbook. Disclosure of such policies will give full info to the clients regarding potential conflict of interest on the part of those entrusted to manage their money. Answer B is incorrect because firms are encouraged to establish policies whereby employees clear their personal holdings and transactions with their employers. So basically, disclosure is a must. ये जो option C में लिखा है that because of confidentiality issues they won't really disclose, that is wrong. Next, question 5. Bronson provides investment advice to the board of trustees of a private university endowment fund. The trustees have provided Bronson with the fund's financial information, including planned expenditures. Bronson receives a phone call on Friday afternoon from Murdoch, a prominent alumnus requesting that Bronson fax him comprehensive financial info about the fund. According to Murdoch, he has a potential contributor but needs the info that day to close the deal and cannot contact any of the trustees. Based on CFA Institute standards, Bronson should option A, send Murdoch the information because disclosure would benefit the client. Not send Murdoch the information to preserve confidentiality. This seems right. Send Murdoch the information provided Bronson promptly notifies the trustees. See, option A is wrong definitely because there is some confidentiality issue here. Basically, there is a client and Murdoch has been posted on that client. Murdoch cannot really, disclose any information about that client to anyone. So option B looks completely right. He should not send Murdoch the information to preserve confidentiality. However, let's read the answer. The correct answer is B. This question relates to Standard 3A, loyalty, prudence and care, and Standard 3E, preservation of confidentiality. In this case, the member manages funds of a private endowment. Clients, who are in this case the trustees of the fund, must place some trust in the members and candidates. Bronson cannot disclose confidential financial info to anyone without the permission of the fund. See, if he'd taken the permission of the fund, then it was okay, regardless of whether the disclosure may benefit the fund or not. Therefore, answer A is incorrect. Answer C is incorrect because Bronson must notify the fund and obtain the fund's info before publicizing the info. So basically, you take the permission first and then disclose, not the other way around. Okay. Next, question 6. Miller heads the research department of a large brokerage firm. The firm has many analysts, some of whom are subject to the code and standards. If Miller delegates some supervisory duties, which statement best describes her responsibilities under the code and standards? Option A. Miller's supervisory responsibilities do not apply to those subordinates who are not subject to code and standards. So basically, what they are trying to say here, for example, Miller, assume karo, Miller is a CFA charter holder, a qualified CFA charter holder, and they're talking about her responsibility as a supervisor. Option A says Miller's supervisory responsibilities do not apply to those subordinates who are not subject to the code and standards. First of all, who are not subject to code and standards? What does this mean? Basically, there are so many qualified personnel in your organization, some of which might be qualified CFA charter holders or candidates or anyone, some of which must be just college students. If those college students are not pursuing this course CFA, then they are not subject to our code of standards. So basically what they're trying to say is, in option A, Miller का responsibility जो है वो ये college students को supervise करना नहीं है, which is absolutely wrong. If Miller is a CFA charter holder or a candidate, if she or he is a supervisor, then her duty stays constant for whomsoever is under her guidance. Option B, Miller no longer has supervisory responsibility for those duties delegated to her subordinates. Again, this is wrong. This says that Miller should not take any responsibility for her juniors' duties. So again, this is wrong. C, Miller retains supervisory responsibility for all subordinates despite her delegation of some duties. This one is absolutely right. You have to be responsible for your juniors' duties as well. So the correct answer is option C. Under Standard 4C, responsibilities of supervisors, members and candidates may delegate supervisory duties to subordinates but such delegation does not relieve them from their supervisory responsibilities. As a result, answer B is incorrect. Moreover, whether or not Miller's subordinates are subject to code and standards is irrelevant to her supervisory responsibilities. Therefore, answer A is incorrect. So basically, if you are subject to code and standards, then you need not care if your juniors are subject to code and standards. If you are a supervisor, it is your first responsibility. Example 7. Villiers is the research analyst responsible for the following company X. All the information he has accumulated and documented suggests that the outlook for company's new products is poor. So the stock should be rated a weak hold. Basically, he says that new products का outlook जो है, it is very poor and therefore you must hold. That means you must not buy or sell, you can just hold the stock. During lunch, however, Villiers overhears a financial analyst from other firm whom he respects offer opinions and which conflicts with Villiers' forecast and expectations. So basically what is happening here, during lunch this guy Villiers, he meets another analyst from another firm and he respects offer opinions that conflict with Villiers' forecast. Matlab, if I am saying hold the stock, that person might be saying buy or sell the stock. Let's read ahead. Upon returning to his office, Villiers releases a strong buy recommendation to the public. क्या हुआ? You think that the company is doing poor, you must hold the stock, don't buy the stock. But during lunch you met someone who says that you must buy a stock. So you also changed your recommendation from hold to buy again. Basically, ये violation तो हो गया. Now let's read option A, B and C and confirm. Option A says he has violated the standards by failing to distinguish between facts and opinions in his recommendation. Now, in this question, there was no fact or opinion, if you noticed. Fact means the truth, opinion means what you think is true. इधर ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं आया है क्वेश्चन में. Now, option B says violated the standards because he did not have a reasonable and adequate basis for the recommendation. Now, option B looks right because without doing any research, he just passed a new recommendation of buying the stock. See, if you thought that the recommendation was hold earlier, then you heard someone and then you passed a buy recommendation. You should have done some research. You should have found that actually should people buy this stock or not. So without doing that, you pass the recommendation. So option B looks correct. Option C says he was in full compliance with the standards, which is absolutely wrong. Check the answer. The correct answer is option B. This question relates to standard 5A, diligence and reasonable basis. This opinion of another financial analyst is not an adequate basis for Villiers' action in changing the recommendation. Answer C is thus incorrect. So is answer A, because although it is true that members and candidates must distinguish between facts and opinions in recommendation, this question does not illustrate a violation of that nature. Basically, there was no fact or opinion given in this question only. If the opinion overheard by Villiers had sparked him to conduct additional research and investigation that justified a change of opinion, then a changed recommendation would be appropriate. Basically, ये जो उसके friend ने बोला that he thinks that people must buy the stock. If Villiers wanted to change the recommendation, he should have researched more about it and then taken a call. But he just heard another person say buy and he changed his recommendation to buy, which is a violation. Next, example 8. An investment management firm has been hired by ETV Corporation to work on an additional public offering for the company. The firm's brokerage unit now has a sell recommendation on ETV, but the head of investment banking department has asked the head of the brokerage unit to change the recommendation from sell to buy. According to the standards, the head of brokerage unit would be permitted to dash. First of all, try to understand the question. Earlier, they said firm's brokerage unit now has a sell recommendation on ETV. But the head of investment banking department asked the head of brokerage unit to change the recommendation from sell to buy. तो क्या करना चाहिए? That has been asked. Option A, increase the recommendation by no more than one increment. In this case, to a hold recommendation. What option A is trying to say that you can increase it by one step. For example, if there are three recommendations, one is buy, one is hold, one is sell. So option A says if you have recommended sell, then you can increase it by only one step, which is you can now say hold. Or if it was hold earlier, now you can say buy. First of all, there is nothing like this in your standards. So option A is a bluff. It is incorrect. Option B, place the company on a restricted list and give only factual information about the company. If you remember, you have studied this point while we were discussing the theory of the standards. So option B looks right. Option C, assign a new analyst to decide if the stock deserves a higher rating. See, now option C would have been right, but option B is the most appropriate one. Option C is talking about taking a lot of efforts again, which is incorrect. Answer. The correct answer is B. This question relates to standard 1B, independence and objectivity. When asked to change a recommendation on a company stock to gain business for the firm, the head of the brokerage unit must refuse in order to maintain his independence and objectivity in making recommendations. Basically, वो investment banking वाले के बात में मत आना. You have to be responsible for your own actions. He must not yield to pressure by the firm's investment banking department. To avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, the firm should discontinue issuing recommendations about the company. मतलब एक factual restricted list में उसको डाल दो. For the time being, do not recommend anything. Answer A is incorrect. Changing the recommendation in any manner is contrary to analyst's opinion, violates the duty to maintain independence and objectivity. Basically, it is not that you can increase it by just one step. जैसे ये buy, hold और sell है. If you change your recommendation from sell to hold, then you have not violated the standards. If you think that way, it is wrong. You have definitely violated the standards. Answer C is also incorrect because merely assigning a new analyst to decide whether the stock deserves a higher rating will not address the conflict of interest. So basically, what you can do is you cannot really recommend something now. उसको थोड़े टाइम के लिए एक अलग से लिस्ट में डाल दो. Give only factual information about it. Do not recommend anything. Next, example 9. Albert and Ty, who recently started their own investment advisory business, have registered to take the level 3 CFA examination. Albert's business card reads Judy Albert, CFA level 2. If you remember, ये एक violation है because CFA level 2 is not a designation. There is no such partial designation. So this looks like a violation. Ty has not put anything about the CFA designation on the business card, but promotional material that he designed for the business describes the CFA requirements that indicates that Ty participates in the CFA program and has completed levels 1 and 2. बेसिकली टाई ने क्या किया है, टाई ने उसके विजिटिंग कार्ड पे कुछ भी नहीं लिखा है, बट इन द प्रमोशनल मटेरियल ही हैज रिटन दैट he has cleared level 1 and 2 and he has participated in this CFA program. So this does not look like a violation. So basically the first person, Albert, has violated and the second one, Ty, has not violated. Option A, Albert has violated the standards but Ty has not. This seems to be correct. But read option B and C as well. Option B, Ty has violated the standards but Albert has not. See, this is incorrect. Option C, both Albert and Ty have violated the standards. Again, this is incorrect. So option A is the right one. Solution. The correct answer is option A, standard 7B. Reference to CFA Institute, the CFA designation and the CFA program is the subject of this question. The reference on Albert's business card implies that there is CFA level 2 designation. Ty merely indicates in promotional material that he is participating in the CFA program and has completed levels 1 and 2. Candidates may not imply that there is some sort of partial designation earned after passing any level of CFA examination. So you cannot really say that you are a CFA level 2. ऐसा कुछ भी partial designation होता ही नहीं है. So either it should have been Judy Albert, CFA, or she could have written Judy Albert has cleared CFA level 2. As simple as that. Therefore, Albert has violated standard 7B. Candidates may communicate that they are participating in the CFA program, however, and may state the levels they have completed. So basically you can say that you are participating in it and you can also say that you have cleared level 1, 2 and 3, but you cannot write level 2 after your name. Therefore, Ty has not violated this standard. Now question 10. Scott works for a regional brokerage firm. He estimates that Walkton Industries will increase its dividend by $1.5 a share during the next year. He realizes that this increase is contingent on pending legislation that would, if enacted, give Walkton a substantial tax break. The US representative for Walkton's home district has told Scott that although she is lobbying hard for the bill and prospects for its passage for favorable, concern of the US Congress over the federal deficit could cause the tax bill to be voted down. First of all, try to understand what is this. ये जो Scott है, he works for a brokerage firm. Scott बोलता है that this stock, the name is Walkton Industries, this stock will fetch a dividend of $1.5 per share. And why does he think so? Because आगे जाके उसको कुछ तो भी tax benefit मिलने वाला है. But when he spoke with US representative, that representative said that it would be really difficult for this tax break to happen because federal deficit is an issue. If you remember from economics, what is fiscal deficit? G minus T, if you remember. Government expenses minus tax revenue. Now, if your economy is in deficit, then you need to increase the tax revenue and not give tax benefits to the companies. So basically, that representative says that this won't be possible. Walkton Industries has not made any statements about a change in dividend policy. Scott writes in his research report, we expect Walkton's stock price to rise by at least $8 a share by the end of the year because its dividend will increase by $1.5 a share. Investors buying the stock at the current time should expect to realize a total return of at least 15% on the stock. According to the standards, option A, Scott violated the standards because he used material inside information. First of all, there is no material inside information here. Option B, Scott violated the standards because he failed to separate opinion from fact. See, now this looks correct. Basically, what he said was that he portrayed it in such a way कि ये fact है, that it is a fact that stock price will rise by $8. It is a fact that it will give a dividend of 1.5. It is a fact that you will get 15% return, which is wrong because it is his opinion. So option B looks correct. Option C, Scott violated the standards by basing his research on uncertain predictions of future government action. See, now this is not a violation. This is a risk which he has taken. It is not that it is sure that US government will not give a tax break. It just looks like it won't give a tax break. Let's read the answer. The correct answer is B. This question relates to standard 5B, communication with clients and prospective clients. Scott has issued a research report stating that he expects the price of Walkton Industries to rise by $8 a share because the dividend will increase by $1.5 per share. He has made this statement knowing that the dividend will increase only if Congress enacts certain legislation, an uncertain prospect. By stating that the dividend will increase, Scott failed to separate fact from opinion. See, now what has happened here? Dividend बढ़ेगा या नहीं, that is uncertain on some law which will give tax benefit. So he cannot just be very confident and say that dividend will increase by $1.5. So that is where he has violated the standard. It is not a fact but an opinion. But he thinks that it is a fact and he has portrayed it to the public that it is a fact. The information regarding passage of legislation is not material non-public info because it is conjecture, and the question does not state whether the US representative gave Scott her opinion on the passage of legislation in confidence. She could have been offering this opinion to anyone who asked. मतलब कि ये जो US representative ने बोला है that it is uncertain of the tax break or tax benefit or whatever you call it, ये जो है, you never know it is public or not, so you cannot really comment that it is a non-public material information. She could have been offering this opinion to anyone, मतलब anyone could have known this, जिसने भी पूछा सबको पता रहेगा. Therefore statement A is incorrect क्योंकि ये material non-public info नहीं है. It may be acceptable to base a recommendation in part on an expectation of future events even though they may be uncertain. See, basically if something is uncertain then you can still pass a recommendation. It is not that you cannot pass a recommendation. So that is why option C is incorrect. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned to eKeeda and subscribe to eKeeda.